I need to start. Okay, I'm recording now, sorry. So there is a Q&A session. You can use that to ask any question that you want to be particularly attended to. That is what we'll be using to ask the speaker's question when it is time for the question and answer. And that's also what we're going to use to answer questions online, all right? Without further ado, I'm going to be bringing our first speaker, who is Dami. So Damilola is a PhD student of philosophy at the University of Cincinnati and a presidential fellow at the University of Cincinnati Graduate College. She has a bachelor's and master's degree in philosophy at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, where she graduated with a first-class honor. Her area of research is in bioethics, ethics, and public policy. Her research focuses on the migration of health workers and its effect on health system, health administration in the narrative of pandemic planning, and ethical issues in voluntary and mandatory vaccination. Her long-term goal is to conduct research in bioethics and teach philosophy as a professor of philosophy. So please help me welcome Dami. You can give her a round of applause in the comment section or you can react. Dami, you are welcome to start this
Thank you.
for us.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful and I'm happy to be here. And I want to express my appreciation to the organizers of this webinar. So I'm grateful to you, Hebube, for the invite. And I appreciate the Davidic Christian Center. To be honest, I've always been a fan of Pastor Kingsley and Mildred Okonkwo, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you. And so how do I share my screen? Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. Please give me a few minutes to share my screen.
Okay. Yeah, you have the permission to share your screen.
Okay. All right, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm trying to make it. Okay. So I'll be talking today briefly on making global impact through education. So basically what I'll just be talking about is how to affect our world through education and to let us know that getting education is not just a means to an end, but it's a platform for us to effect change in our society. So firstly, I'll be talking about the Japa wave and international education. So I want to believe, but let me say I'm assuming that everybody that is joining this webinar has that intention to seek international education, like you want to move out of Nigeria to go to the US, the UK, or Canada to study. And that is actually very good, but it actually becomes problematic when we do it with the wrong intention. So JAPA means to flee or to escape or to disappear quickly from a situation. But in present day Nigeria, it is used to describe the emigration of Nigerians for economic purposes. So because of the situation in Nigeria, the unfavorable economic situation, the security issues, and all other problems that are, ravaging the country, so many youths are trying to emigrate as a way of just leaving the country behind and to seek good life for themselves. Now, there are very many pathways that Nigerian youths are using, they are going through to leave Nigeria and to seek this good life. And one of that pathway is education. So a number of Nigerian youths are seeking education in the UK, in the US, in Canada to escape the harsh realities of Nigeria. But then when we explore the education path as a means to migrate and to seek economic opportunities solely for this purpose, it is actually very problematic, because some of the challenges that comes with that, even if it is possible, like you have the mindset that, okay, I am tired of Nigeria, I want to leave, and then you start applying to grad schools, and fortunately you get admission, but your intention of getting the admission is, once I leave Nigeria like this, I'm not coming back, I want to get a good life for myself. And then you enter grad school and you start looking for ways to make money and all. So it comes with its own challenges when we have this mindset. And some of the challenges that comes with this mindset of jackpotting and seeking good life for yourself. Now, I'm not saying we can't seek good life for ourselves, even through the education pathway. But my point is, when this is like your sole intention. I've met people in grad school that even when they enter into the US or UK or Canada, they stop going to school and they start hustling. So some of the challenges that comes with having this mindset is distraction. So instead of you focusing on the main reason why you got the admission or not, you start doing a number of things. Some people take odd jobs and then they are not able to focus in school. And then another challenge is low productivity. You're not productive because your mind is divided. You're doing this, you're doing that. And the main reason why you migrated in the first place is suffering. Then little or no significant impact in research. When you want to apply to grad school, it is assumed that it is because you want to contribute to research. You want to contribute to existing knowledge. But when you, as a person, you enter into grad school with the intention of making money or increasing my economic opportunities, and you like I said, you become distracted and you have little or no significant impact in research. And because of that, there is little or no global impact or relevance. You're not doing anything for your society. You're not doing anything to become relevant. You're just hustling up and down for yourself. And there are people like that. And there are also people that have been able to manage things. Some have been able to do all this hustling and still be able to do well in school, still be able to contribute to research and all, but it actually takes a toll on them. So it boils down to we having the right mindset. What exactly do you want to do? Why are we seeking international education? So this brings me to my third point, like, why are we seeking education? So education is an intrinsic value in the sense that it's a value in itself. It's a beautiful thing when you get educated because you want to be knowledgeable. But then international education is better because it even increases your exposure, it expands your mind, but much more than the intrinsic value that we get from education. It equips us with the knowledge. It equips us with a, oh, I'm sorry, I can't see my screen properly. So it gives us the knowledge, skills, and what's here?
Dami, you can put it in the slideshow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it equips us with the knowledge, skills, and mindset needed to tackle societal challenges. Now, I'm a huge advocate of practical education. So for me, whatever you're doing, if it's not solving a problem, because our present world is faced with so much issues, so much critical issues. We have climate change, we have poverty, we have so many issues, and we need problem solvers. So we need people that would be able to provide solutions to all the problems that we are facing in this world. And that's like one of the essence of seeking education. And it is only by seeking education, especially with the right mindset, that we can solve these societal problems and we can make significant impact in the global sphere. As a matter of fact, for me, I think that one of the ways by which we can make significant impact in the world by meeting needs is by solving problems. It's by how would I put it? It's by identifying a particular challenge and conducting research to solve this problem. So those people that have made significant impacts in the world, if you study them, if you study their history, you'll notice that they are doing something particularly to meet the needs of people or to solve a particular challenge. So the question then for us is, why are we seeking international education? Why do you want to apply to grad school? Why are you looking for that admission? Why do you want to go to the US or UK? Is it to only japa and leave Nigeria and seek good life for yourself, or because you have the mind to meet people's needs and you think that getting education would equip you for that? And I think that's the right mindset that we should have towards seeking education. So you're not just seeking education for yourself, but because you want to meet needs, you want to be a problem solver. That is what distinguishes you from every other person. So what distinguishes you? What makes you globally relevant? What makes you unique is your ability to identify a problem and provide solution or work towards solving that problem. So people who are making significant impacts in the world are those who are solving problems or meeting people's needs. So if your goal is only to migrate or seek economic opportunities, while those are good, but that shouldn't be our sole purpose. We would most likely not go far if that's your only goal. And I think that will only become relevant when we think outside of the box and we make significant impact, either by solving problems or by contributing to knowledge. And so how do we make ourselves relevant through education? How can we make global impact through education? The first thing I would say is to have the right mindset. So this mindset of, oh, I have to japa at all costs, I have to do this, I have to do that, I think it's a wrong mentality, it's a wrong mindset. The reason why we should seek education, whether globally or locally, is to become problem solvers, is to contribute to our society. Then the second step, I would think, is identify your passion or purpose. What is that thing that has been bugging you? What is that puzzle that you wish to unravel or solve? What's that societal challenge? And this can come in different form. It can be maybe through the course you're studying. Maybe you have identified a research gap or something and you have been thinking about it, like, what can I do to improve this thing? This is what distinguishes you. And I noted it here that this helps significantly with your statement of purpose and grad school application. So most strong statements of purpose that I have read, that I have written, that I have come in contact with are those statements of purpose that expresses the desire to solve a problem, that expresses the desire to contribute to a particular research gap. So that is what distinguishes you. So like I said, what keeps you up at night? What's that societal challenge or problem that you've been thinking about? Is there any puzzle that you want to solve? Those are the things that will propel you. Those are things that would make you think outside of the box. Then after you've identified your passion, what you want to do, then get the right training for it. Seek education, go for internships. If you are still doing your bachelor's degree, if you're still an undergraduate, it's the time for you to get internships. It's the time for you to volunteer at organizations. And if you are doing your NYSC, at that time also, it's the time for you to develop yourself. Get involved in research. Move close to your lecturers, people that have moved ahead of you. Do your findings, get your connections, do everything that you can to get the right experience. And these are the things that will help you when you're submitting your application, because these are the things that distinguishes you. You have done your research, you've done everything that you're supposed to do. Then get mentors that are committed to your success, because this journey of seeking education, making global impacts, and being socially relevant is not something you can do by yourself. There are people that have gone ahead of you, and there are people that can help you. So you have to identify these people, and then you get in touch with them, get committed to them, and learn from them. So this would help you to develop yourself. This will help to distinguish yourself and make you relevant. Then, what's the next slide? Yeah, be consistent with whatever you're doing, whatever problem you want to solve, whatever puzzle that you want to solve. Be consistent in working on it. So Rome was not just built in a day. It takes time. It takes practice. Keep practicing, keep working on it, keep doing your research. So if what you want to do is to provide solutions to water problems, because there are so many communities in Nigeria that do not have access to clean water. And let's say, for example, this problem has been bugging you and all. So you have to get trained in that, and then be consistent in doing your research in it. Let people know that, okay, this is what you're doing. Then be vocal about whatever you're doing. No, you don't get any reward by being secretive or being quiet about what you're doing. I have learned in my life, in my research personally, and even from people that have made significant impact in research, I've noticed that they talk about their research, they talk about what they are doing, they are vocal about it, they are courageous about it. So whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you're working on, be proud about it, keep talking about it, keep seeking for knowledge that can improve you. And then it takes practice and commitment to become a problem solver. Be very consistent with whatever you're doing. And lastly, pray. And I intentionally added this last part because I believe it's a Christian community that organized this webinar. So I believe so much in the power of prayer. So I believe that sometimes people do everything right and still things don't work. But if you're consistent with prayer and you pray for destiny helpers, people that would assist you to get to that height, people that would help with your grad school application, people that would be willing to invest in you, these things happen, and God makes these things happen. So if, as you're working, as you're identifying the puzzle you want to solve, as you're getting the right training and getting the education that you need, please add prayer to it at every step of the way. And with all this, having the right mindset, getting the right training, getting the right mentors to mentor you, and then you keeping consistent and being prayerful, I believe that our desire, that desire to be globally relevant, it's going to come to pass. It's going to come to fruition. So, and this brings me to the end of my talk. So thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions for me, especially with grad school application. So I didn't talk about grad school application because it's not my topic. So, but if you have any question, please drop it in the chat box, and alternatively, you can reach out to me via email. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dami. I really appreciate it. Please let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. I think what you said, what you know explained is really vital, because I have seen a lot of people, like people who meet me and say, oh, I want to apply to graduate school. And then by the time you engage them in conversations, you find out that it's either they are not prepared, they are not ready, you know, they don't even have a problem that they want to solve, because that's like the bulk of, you know, graduate school, or that's like the bulk of even wanting to apply in the first place, especially people, you know, wanting funding and things like that. So I think it's very important, and so thank you so much for that. So please, guys, I just want to reiterate some of the things Dami talked about. You know, she talked about the right mindset, understanding that education is about solving problems. You know, it's very important for you, even before you think about applying to a particular school, a particular program. It's very important for you to know what is the problem in this, you know, sector. What is the problem that you would likely, you know, solve? And then she talked about being consistent with what you are doing, you know, receiving trainings, doing certain things. A lot of people never volunteer. Like, you don't have a job at the moment, but you want to go to school and you don't volunteer. It's very important that you mark that time. Like, what are you using your time to do? You know, if you are in service, while serving, do certain things that would give you an edge in your application. For me, I see it as two kinds of people that just want to jackpot because of, you know, the Nigerian economy, and then people that, yes, even though I want to leave the country, but I also want to make an impact with this education. And I think that's like the first thing that, you know, we all should think about before we even start applying. So thank you very much, Dami, for that. That was very insightful. We would be so please drop your questions in the question and answer box. We would be taking questions from there, please. So we'll just go on straight to the next speaker. Our next speaker is John. I'm trying to get his bio. So John is a doctoral researcher at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, United States. He currently investigates how varying degree of privacy literacy and contextual integrity shape users' perceptions and interactions across distinct digital ecosystems with AI tools for various purposes. Before his doctoral studies, he has worked in several capacities with the CBN, Center for Economics and Finance, University of Ibadan, Nigeria, Chrisland University, Abeokuta, Michael and Cecilia Ibru University. Wow. He has received academic and professional fellowship awards and has attended conferences and seminars in Africa, the United States, Europe, and South America. Please, guys, let's give it up for John as he comes to take the stage. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you very much, Ibube, for this platform and opportunity. It's a great work that you are doing. And I strongly believe that these investments will go a long way in creating sustainable development for many people across our continent in Africa. One of the things I believe is that everyone that reaches the top has enjoyed help at some point or the other. And that is why opportunities to share with our members of our community is a way of giving back. And I thank you sincerely for this initiative and to give back to the community that produced you. That's profound. And I also appreciate other facilitators as well. And especially our first speaker, that was a great one. Because if anybody does not have the right mindset, grad school can make you to become a dropout within the first semester. And everything he said, I think she has set the platform ready for most of the things I will be doing. It's just to build on it. Because the reason why anybody is needed in an environment like this is because there are problems to be solved. There are problems to be solved. And when we talk about the United States, fine, we have people studying across the world, in Europe, in Asia, in different parts of the world. But I can tell or encourage anybody from my little experience and explorations, United States is still a place to be, to study. If not for anything, my own parents are not educated. So I don't know the kind of job my parents will be doing as of today to be paying my school fees of approximately 35K or 37K. I don't know which of our properties you are going to sell to be able to do that. And that's why when we talk about this process, it's a process that is worth it because of, number one, there is a sense of fulfillment that comes with being part of the global individuals that are solving problems. And my perception changed when I began to have all these opportunities. We think the problems are only limited to Africa. Oh, no. There are so many problems. My research area alone tells me how much problems that technology has caused. And billions of dollars are being rolled out by government institutions to address the problem. You see, we are struggling to catch up with those technology in Africa, right? So we use them anyhow. But here is a lot of problems. And that will lead us, still building on what Damilola, a very profound foundation. What problem do you want to solve? Grad school is beyond Oh, sorry. Okay. Forgive me. That Yoruba instinct in me will not. So what I was saying is grad school is beyond I want to japa. I was almost speaking Yoruba. I'm sorry about that. This is an international community. I'm sorry. Sometimes I do that in my classroom and I just forget myself. So it's beyond that. And any grad student in the US will tell you the same story. You've got to work for that investment being made in you. And let's just get that one has been done. What is going to connect with the steps that you might have to follow in your application process? Now, Ebube gave me a very difficult task, how to start, time management, and how to combine it with your job. These are three issues, but I will try. But what I will do is I will devote my time on how to start, because I know another speaker is still coming to explore going through the application process with some other things depending on your status. But let me just say this. Whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you are working, whether you are currently unemployed, the process of seeking grad admission in the United States alone is enough a job for you. And you've just got to be ready for it. It's a job on its own, and you will soon see. But I tell you, at the end of the day, it is worth it. So maybe I should try to share my screen. Oh, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, so how to start your grad school? That's a very broad one. But Ebube, this is what you're going to do for me. Once I have 5 minutes left, I know I have 15 minutes. I'm going to spend almost all the minute, but I will try to be fast. Just let me know so that I go to the other one. Now, the first thing I will say is that, oh, it's not, okay. The first thing I will say is that since we're talking about the problem you want to solve, we're talking about that interest, something you have passion for. I've seen people changing their research interest, their research area in the United States here, because their research here is kind of industry tailored, unlike most of the things we do in Nigeria. I am a doctoral student in UI before I came here when ASU strike nearly killed me. I started doctoral program in UI in my department in 2017. And within that time, I came to the US here for different trainings and fellowships. My interest hasn't changed since I discovered it. Now, the first thing to do if you want to start admission process in the United States here, the first thing I will recommend is that, please, what area of interest have you identified? What is that thing? And I'm going to share a document with us very soon, maybe after my presentation. I came across that document when I was, exploring admission opportunities as well, far back in 2021. I was in Chrisland University there, and a friend shared with me. And I went through it and I wondered how somebody compiled the list of different schools. It is not the final. The opportunities in schools are more than that, but I can tell anybody that is a very good starting point. So identify your interests. What problem do you want to solve? Even if you are I don't know, if you are a sociologist, for instance, you read sociology. In sociology, there are different problems. We have criminology, we have public policy, all kinds of things. Now, as broad as your discipline is, you have your area. And for instance, I study library and information science, studies or science, as they may call it here, at UI. Since day one, everything I've been doing has been revolving around information. I've done something on information behavior, which is something that will continue as world changes, as technology changes. After that, for my master's, I did something on information ethics. Now, my information ethics I did metamorphosed into information policy I am doing now. You see now, it was later I got to know that the information ethics I was doing in Nigeria is actually a fragment of information policy as a whole. And I said, wow, this is serious. Because one of the academic shocks anybody will get in the United States is how backward our curriculums are in Africa, especially in Nigeria. So what is your area? Do you know why those areas are very, very important? Because depending on the school to which you are applying, you've got to identify faculty members whose research areas align with yours. So if you have problems or challenges identifying what you want to do, you've not started. And I will recommend to anybody, okay, I read criminology because I've seen one of my boys on this platform now who is a criminologist. What do you want to do in criminology? What's your focus? Because by the time you are exploring opportunities in the United States, you see that you may not see criminology as a whole. It might be under law, or they call it criminal justice. Criminal justice is kind of broader than criminology on its own. But by the time you go back, you narrow it down, you begin to check the profile of the faculty members, then you begin to see, oh, this is where I belong. This is what I think I can do. So the first thing I would say, identify your interest. And I pray I'm able to get there. That I was talking about your statement of purpose, because you're going to build a story around that later in your application. So please identify your interest, pinpoint your academic and career goals to find the right. See, there are so many problems in this world. You can't follow your friend, your colleague to do something. And every problem is unique in this context because everyone is needed. You see that idea of sustainable development goals, there are so many things embedded in it. So everyone is needed. Pinpoint your own academic and career goals. What do I want to become? What do I want to do? It is very, very, very important, because by the time you eventually get admitted to your desired grad school and you are bothered by the loads of coursework and weekly assignment that you're going to do, or by the time you want to conceptualize your research focus, here they call it research identity, then you might run into crisis. So it is good to build it now, know what you want to do, and you continue to build all your stories around it. Since my day one in class here, my story hasn't changed because I knew what I wanted to do even before I got here. And so that's one. I mean, that's two. Also, you may want to evaluate the rankings of the universities that you are looking for. You know, say, oh, you've identified your interest, you've determined your research goals, I mean, your career goals and all that. Some people will tell you, evaluate the rankings of the universities. Well, yeah, it's something you might want to do. And this is the reason. For instance, there are schools that have a very low admission rate because of how competitive they are. How do they say that they have low admission rate? Because they have more people applying to those schools than others. And this is how you want to do it. In my school, in my discipline, for instance, it will be, our own school is the leading one for years in the United States here. I don't know how they are doing it. We are also doing research in Milwaukee. But that's just the truth. That's just on a lighter mode. Our school is #1 in the United States as far as my discipline is concerned. So you may want to do such a ranking. Oh, how are the universities that align with my interest rank? You know, you may want to do that. And just like Damilola was talking about prayer the other time, I remember when in 2021, my friend told me something. He said, John, this is what I will advise you to do. Do the rankings, look for 3 schools, look for the top, the middle, and somehow towards the end of the ladder or the bottom of the ladder. I said, no, I can't go towards the bottom of the ladder. But I went to one shortly after the middle. Now, incidentally, I got admitted to the middle, you know, and there are so many lessons that the process has actually taught me, which I found. I just wish that the other speakers will be able to talk about telling your stories. Because even in your evaluation, it's not just the ranking of your university that matters. It is actually how your interests align with whoever you have identified in that school to work with. If your interest is completely the other way around, against what they do in that school or in that laboratory or in that research group, you won't get admitted. You won't get admitted. For instance, in my discipline now, there are universities in the United States that they do nothing. There are different high schools that they do nothing about indigenous knowledge. So if you are coming here and say you want to do something about indigenous knowledge, no, there is no way you will be admitted. So even in your evaluation, in your ranking evaluation, still make sure that your idea, again, we're going back to your interest, align with what the faculty members are doing in that school. And again, when you are doing that, I always encourage people that apart from what they say on the website of the graduate school in that your university that you are aspiring, please reach out to the department. Information changes over time, and don't be surprised, even in the United States, the website might not be immediately updated. So you might be working with the outdated information. So I always encourage people, even when you have decided what you want to do, you've read from the grad school that this is what they say, still reach out. There is always somebody vested with the responsibility of answering questions in all these universities. And that's one of the differences between them and we in Nigeria. There is somebody that will always reply to your emails about inquiries and all that. So please make sure you get information about your specific department, your specific program or discipline. In fact, in my own case, I didn't bother to do much ranking about my university. Rather, I did ranking about my program, because every program is nationally domiciled. There are bodies that regulate, that accredit each program. Are you getting the point? So by the time you graduate and you feel like not going back to Nigeria, now what is the rating of that program, of that discipline? What is the reputation of that discipline within the United States? And that's what I did. So I hope we are getting one or two things now. Now, maybe other factors that you may want to consider is you assess the location. Some states are very, very expensive than the other, although the same goes with the funding or your stipend for the teaching assistantship and all that. But even despite that, well, you may want to consider, should I go to Washington? Like in my case, oh, I feel like Milwaukee. I've never heard about Milwaukee before, but I did my little research and I felt like, yeah, the cost of living in Milwaukee is still kind of bearable. And I said, okay, let me come to Milwaukee instead of going to Seattle, which is so very, very expensive. But again, apart from assessment of the location, your interest still plays a major role, because that is what will give you the leverage thereafter within 4 years, 5 years after you graduate. Okay. Okay, maybe I should talk about the steps. This is not really the complete thing, but I'm just sharing from the few experiences and engagement I've had with people. So what the process, like we have said, okay, before I forget, don't be deceived by, or don't be bothered by the idea of ranking. That's what I was talking about God the other time, and that's the purpose. I remember Ibube was asking me, are you a Christian? I said, Ibube, you saw John. You were still asking. That was on the lighter mood, actually, you know, because of the environment we find ourselves here. That, hey, I don't want to talk about Jesus. I don't want to talk about God. But of course, I've seen some Muslims, brethren on this platform as well. But what we're saying is God is a major factor. And that changed when I heard the story of one of my sisters in our church. She is in Purdue now. And please, I want everybody to listen to this. I might not be able to cover everything. It's not about how far. We can also have access to either of the facilitators. Sometimes we need to balance stories. You know, this particular lady applied to just only one school and she got it. She's in Purdue now, studying a PhD in chemistry. Now, this lady told me, she said, Mr. John, I prayed. And I found out that the only school I can apply to is Purdue. Despite the ranking, Purdue is highly ranked in the United States. And even Purdue, our program is the #1 in the United States. You know, you see that. And guess what? This girl read chemistry education in Nigeria. You know what that means? I don't know, maybe for somebody like me, I went to College of Education, or for somebody that read something education in Nigeria, and you want to go for that thing, go. Say, somebody read accounting education and wants to do masters or MSc in accounting, they will be like, no, this is not a full accounting and all that. But this girl got a fully funded PhD admission in Purdue, chemistry education. So with prayer and conviction, anything is possible. So yours, you may not do the ranking. Once you made the requirement that they are looking for, with prayer, it is possible. By the grace of God, so God used me to bring another person in my school. She applied to just only one school. So it may not be that. It's just that people in human wisdom will be like, okay, why can't you increase your chances of getting it by applying to 2, 3, 4 schools? So that's just it. So the first thing I always tell people, especially if you graduated from the University of Ibadan, my school, please, this is the best time for you to begin to prepare to get your transcripts. I was shocked that the transcript we used to get within 48 hours, now as the whole story has changed again. So transcript is becoming a challenge now. So please, you begin to get your transcript now and get a student copy in case you want to apply to more than one school, so that you'll be able to use that same copy for different admissions. And depending on your grade scores that you graduated with, some schools may say they need certain tests. GRE, TOEFL, GMAT, and all that, depending on your program and depending on the policy in your specific discipline. So please find, and that's why I have a template that I usually send to anybody that reaches out to me, that there are like about 4 basic questions that any grad student, potential grad student should ask his or her departmental program coordinator. You ask questions about funding, about these tests, all these tests and what have you. Then what else? Do I need to get an advisor? That skips my mind. Because when I was talking about your interest the other time, some schools will tell you you need to get an advisor before you apply. What that means is that you must have reached out to a faculty member. Advisor is supervisor, we call them in Nigeria. So some schools will be like, okay, you need to get an advisor before you apply. That is, an advisor must have agreed to supervise you before you apply, because you are going to state it in your personal statement or your application essay that, oh, this is my area, and Professor so A, B, C, and D has actually accepted to supervise me should I be given admission. And some schools will be like, no, you don't need that, just apply, let's hear your story, then we decide, and we connect you with the best advisor that matches your research interest. So if you do not know that you actually need to reach out to an advisor to accept you, your application might not be treated. Because what they do, especially in my school, is that your application, especially your essay, will be forwarded to that advisor. So your number 1 recommendation will come from him. You cannot imagine somebody without any advisor and you are applying to that same school. Who will read your application essay? And see, and thank God we have put God forward in everything we're doing. These people, then get checklists. If you pray from today to tomorrow, it might not change anything. As long as you do not meet the laid down principles. Please let us get that right. God is a miracle working God, but these people, they are very, very thorough when it comes to their policy, because they will see it as a form of injustice for people that followed the procedure. So yeah, so in your personal statement is a form of selling yourself. And I want to believe that there is nobody here that will not know, That's another thing. How many minutes do I have left, Ebube?
You have about 5 minutes more, but yeah, you can just briefly go ahead. We can add extra 5 minutes.
Okay. Personal statement is a very key thing. And Lola was talking about it the other time. Your personal statement is your selling point. And there are three major things, if I may put it that way, that matter so much in your application process or document. Your CV, your transcripts, your personal statement, and your recommendation. You know, we're talking about people that do not know you from anywhere. They don't want to know your religion. They don't want to know your gender orientation. They don't want to know your cultural background. What they are interested in is the idea you are bringing on board to solve global problems. So how do you sell yourself? So your personal statement is a combination of yourself, a little bit story about yourself, what you have done, and what you plan to do, and how you plan to do it. It is not proposal, unlike in the UK, that they will ask you to write proposal. Personal statement is about you. It's about you. This is me. This is my story. This is how I got into this particular discipline, where I got my first degree, I got my master's, and I still want to do my PhD, or I've got my first degree, and now I want to come and do my master's program. Personal statement has certain elements, and if you go online, there are different samples. Here is another mistake people do. Somebody's story is not as the same as yours. You have a unique story. My parents are not educated. I cannot pretend as if they are. I am a first generation, we call it in the United States here. I'm a first generation grad student. First generation grad student means, even first generation graduate means you are the first person to either attend a college, attend a university, or attend a graduate school in your family. That's my story, and it is unique in this context. So how has growing up connect with my career choice? You must, my own story cannot be the same as yours. I knew how I got into librarianship or information science. Each time I told the story, everybody would be laughing because I told them in my essay that the day my uncle told me about it, I said, so you meet people go to the university to spend 4 years on how to arrange books on the shelves. That was my reaction to the discipline that has taken me to different parts of the world today. You can imagine. So your story is unique, and they are actually interested in the diversity of that story and how that story has fired you up to do what you do. She was talking about volunteering the other time, what you do, places you volunteered, what you have contributed in that your local community, no matter how insignificant it might look, and how that has carved out a research area for you. If you're a PhD student, you must be able to tell us or tell them what you did in your undergrad, what you did in your master's, how the two connect, and how the two now influence what you want to do now. Then you must be able to say something about your kind of goal for tomorrow in solving global problem, not just United States problem. There are problems all over the world. So your personal statement is key, because your personal statement is you telling your story by yourself, while your recommendation letters are people that know you telling them about who you are. And there are different ratings for each of those. Recommenders are like their colleagues that they have never seen. So they believe what they tell, what they say about you. And that's why you want to be careful about who writes recommendation for you. What they write matters. The content of what they write matters. You shouldn't be saying something in your personal statement and in your CV, and your recommenders are writing something else. there must be synergy between what you have stated in your personal statement and what your CV is saying and what your recommenders are saying. And that's why it's always good to work with, say, somebody who has supervised you or somebody that you have worked with. Sometimes if you have a reasonable number of years of work experience, you can, if your school says they need 3, so you can make 2 academic, then you make 1. Somebody that can talk about your competence, professional competence. So please, those things, if I can stop there, I'm okay. Your CV, your test scores, if it is so required in your school, your personal statement and your recommendation is, now, let me say this. The kind of recommendation letter for grad school is not the kind we usually write for, say, I did look for job in Nigeria. It is more detailed. The person will talk about how they got to know you, for how long they've known you, what they can say about your character, about your competence, about your ability to navigate grad school in the United States, about the problem you are coming to solve. You know, we are going back to interest, where we started. They must be able to say something about it and how what you've done align with it. I know some of my professors that told me, hey, John, go and write whatever you want to say in your recommendation letter. I remember writing it. Then I forwarded it to my friend who is in Michigan here, who put me through. My friend said, John, you are not ready. Guess what? In the process of seeking for admission abroad, please be open to correction. Because the person that is telling you something at least knows something a little bit more than you. And when my friend sent his own, what he prepared for one of the recommenders, and he forwarded to me. You see, when I read it, I said, if I were to be at the council, at the board, where admission decisions were to be taken about me, I will not support myself. I will not give myself admission if it is going to be based on recommendation letter. And I tell you, that's sincerity. It carries weight. And let me add this. The reason why many people have problem getting quality recommenders is because we don't have good relationship with our organs in the university. We see them as wicked. We see them as tough. I tell you, everybody, they go through something in Nigeria. The system is not just fair currently. The professors too, they are struggling with so many things. If you are very, very close to them, they will tell you stories. They will tell you stories. So maintain good relationship with people. Even after you graduate and you are looking for jobs, I tell you, they may ask you, go and get recommendation from your last 2 jobs. Because they really want to know where you are coming from. And the timeline is very important. It varies from different schools. But thanks to Ebube for bringing this up at this time of the year. Basically, I think by October, thereabouts. October, yeah. Some schools, all those top school. I know some schools that usually start towards the end of September, actually. From September 15, some schools get opened. And those ones by December 15 or thereabout, they say, hey, for priority deadline, we are okay. Priority deadline means you are applying to get funding. And that's what everybody is rushing towards. So we have enough time now to prepare, you know, and just know that, again, the university timeline may not be the departmental timeline. Please take note. The university may say, like in my school, I know in most schools, don't let me say most, in many schools in the United States, it's usually December 15. And if you begin to check different schools, you will always be seeing December 15, just like February 15 is the deadline to accept any admission offer. So, but your department may not be December 15. Even the school may say December 15. Your department might be December 10. So it's always good. See, once you know what the graduate school says, and you have noted it, go back to your department. The information is always there, but you can reach out to the department directly via email. Know their deadline in order for you not to miss that deadline, you know. And application varies from institution to institution. There are certain things. The other day, myself and we were talking, and I was telling her about my forthcoming exam. Now, there is another name they call it in our own school, you know. So even in the United States here, it is not that everything is the same. Even those of us in the United States, we do not belong to the same time zone. Some are 2 hours ahead of you. Some are 1 hour ahead of you. So you just want to work with that your school gone in order for you not to miss anything. I think I will need to stop here. Yeah, I've said a lot.
You said you're going to send a document?
Ebube, I think somebody is saying something. I don't know.
I think it's a mistake.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I should just say this again. Please, for those of us, request, they ask for your letter now. Now. Please. Because your recommenders, depending on them, good people are not easy to come by, because they are always busy. Even when you want to write it by yourself, they will still vet it, because they don't just want to put just anything on their letterhead paper. I remember my professor is one of the toughest professors in my department. I don't want to mention his name because we are on air now, but he's one of the toughest professors in the department. People run away from him. But I tell you something. Do you know this man will give me password to his email to do whatever I want to do? That's the power of relationship. He supported me all through. All through. So you want to reach out to them early. Let them know your intention. Let them know what you want. And please request politely. The toughest professor I'm talking about, despite our close relationship, I know they take relationship for granted. I still made my request officially, I tell you, and it worked well for me. Because you want to see that this opportunity will open you to different opportunities. Within these 2 years in the United States, coming back again, I have seen things I never knew before. I have met people whose work I've read and all that. So it opens you to different opportunities. And again, for your statement of purpose and personal statement, please work with your department again. Is it department? Yeah, work with your department, because some will tell you it has to be so number of characters or so number of words. They are two different things. Characters are different from words. So you just don't want to write 15 pages, or for you to know that they're only asking you to write 1,500 words. It can, in fact, I found now that when you write too much, it becomes difficult for you to reduce it, because you'll be struggling. So please familiarize yourself with the importance. Now, the good thing about all this is that it's like an open exam. They will tell you what they want to see in that your personal statement. You will see it there on the departmental website. They will tell you what they want to see. They will tell you how they want you to write. They will tell you how many words, So it's just an open thing. Once you follow instructions, you cannot miss it. Brag about it, my dear people. Showcase your goals, your achievements. All my fellowships, I pack them in. I don't do this, I don't do that. I've won this. If you never win anything, there will always be a way for you to say, this is what I have done. I have gathered this. I have done this in my community, and this is how I want to transform all of them into making the world better. Meanwhile, don't be surprised that whatever you write in your personal statement, especially regarding your research focus, may not be what you are going to do at the end of the day. Because by the time you finish the first semester in grad school in the United States, there are tendencies that your research focus might change. And so what else? Connect that your statement with your academic background, relevant experiences, and your career aspirations. That's where it lies. You are coming to learn in a developed environment. Your aspirations must be well articulated. It must be well articulated. And okay. Now, let me stop there, Ibube, so that we, since we have another scholar that will be navigating us through the admission process, I think let me just stop there and see how it goes. Now, time management, I tell you, it can be terrible. I will say priority and sacrifice. Priority and sacrifice. When I was doing my admission, I was working as an acting university librarian in a private university. If you never work in a private university in Nigeria, you may not understand. Private university, especially like where I work, we're just coming up. So when they are talking about being multitasked, you know what I was doing? Because I will go for all kinds of meetings, Senate meeting, committee meetings, management meeting, all kinds of meetings. But I knew I had something ahead. There are some Christian students that are here. I don't close until 9:30. And this is what I do. Because I will have access to uninterrupted power and internet. So when I come from office, from say from meetings, say 5:30 thereabout, that is the only time I have chance to do my own work about my life. And I will just take a nap or rest for 30 minutes or thereabout. Then from 7 to 9:30, almost every day, that was when I did everything I was sharing with you. Looking for schools, looking for programs, looking for advisors. Because unfortunately, all the schools I applied to require me to have an advisor, which I got eventually. So time management is all about priority. If you work in a place where it is demanding, your destiny is demanding also. Your destiny is demanding also. So that's where sacrifice comes to play a major role. I know for people working in Lagos, working in Abuja or anywhere, where you can see every traffic, it's just all about sacrifices. And yeah, and that is what I will say. To combine it with, what's the last one now? Let me make the last point. To combine it with, okay, to balance it with work. I think I just shared that. It can be challenging, honest, especially if you work in the government institutions. You can still, but private, oh no. It can be very, very challenging. So I sacrifice my time with people, sometimes with friends chatting. I'll be like, so I'm so sorry. I'm working on something. That's why. And today, we thank, and that's, I think probably if I didn't go through that process, there is no way I will be on this platform given by Ibube. So thank you very much. I look forward to celebrating your success, and we're rooting for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, thank you. This was really insightful. Please, if you have questions, get your questions ready. We are going to soon be taking your questions. Just to reiterate, most of what he had talked about. He had talked about the fact that, first of all, you need to identify your area of interest. The process of even starting the application can be time consuming. And I know a lot of people sometimes get discouraged when, they think about starting this application. Where do I start from? How do I start? So it's very important that you plan your time. If you are working, what's your work hour? Like for me, when I was doing I actually did my own concurrently. I was working at a law firm at the time, and when I go on break, I would, you know, my food is here, my laptop is here, I'm checking stuffs out and things like that. So you need to plan that thing, because sometimes if you are like me that will be getting home by 11, you know that you may be exhausted, you know, to do some things for yourself. So it takes a lot of planning, you know, for you to eventually achieve that. And then he talked about you know, major documents that you need: your CV, your transcript, your personal statements, and recommendation. I do this thing where I send out newsletters every Monday. So I don't know if most of the people here have, you know, have subscribed to that, but I'll be sharing the link in the chat. For what we do is that I basically share everything you need, the steps, the guidance that you need for application. I'll be sharing some links. So this link takes you to the YouTube page, and then we have a link on personal statements. So the personal statement was written by Joanna, who will be the next speaker that is coming up. So it's very important that you have this information. John talked about the fact that he has a document that gives you idea of the important questions to ask your department when it's time. So you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. His name is John Adebayo. So you can reach out to him there on LinkedIn. You can also reach out to Damilola Oduola on LinkedIn too, because I'm sure that they are quite active there. So you can ask them any questions that you want to ask them. You can also reach out to me. Please subscribe to those things. Check out the YouTube pages. It gives you information on what to do. When it comes to recommendation, one of the things I tell people is that we like, once we graduate, we forget our professors. It's as if they never existed, you know. For me, my case was I had to reach out to him and I said, sir, this is what I want to do. And he says, oh, he even sent me a template of some of the recommendations he had written. He said I should modify it, and I did all of that. The other two that wrote for me gave me their email, their password, and said, just go ahead and, you know, do your thing for yourself. So relationship really helps you a lot. Just because you've graduated does not mean that, you know, you forget them, because eventually in graduate school, you will need about 3 of them to write for you. Or if you have been working, you need at least 1 of them to, you know, do those things for you. So please, it's very important that we have good relationships. And he talked about timeline. I can never overemphasize timeline, which is why I always tell people, if you want to apply for next year, start a year ahead to gather this information. You don't start, like, if your school is opening in September, you don't start September. You would be choked with time and you may not put in a good application. And that's why I started some of these things, like in February. That was when we kicked off officially with Step Up Academy, you know, putting out this information. What you need to do is start ahead of time and gather this. My school, for example, we start in August. Priority deadline is November 1st. So that means by October, you should have applied. And then December 1st is general deadline for the department. So priority deadline, you get funding, you are among the first set of people that are considered for funding, and then, you know, the next set. So these are some of the things you need to check. You need to have shortlisted schools. Like he said, you don't need a lot of schools if you really meet the requirements of these schools, because the graduate admission committee, they are really how do I put it? They are really very particular about some of these instructions that they give you, you know. We have a question in the chat, says, can you please share steps on how I can obtain research experience and the associated publications in Nigeria, as well as how to build knowledge to reduce knowledge gaps ahead of grad school? So I don't know if Dami or John can help us answer that question.
Okay. Well, so the first thing I'll tell you about getting research experience is getting close to your faculty, or let me say the lecturers in your department. So these guys have been doing research, right? So they know how these things go. So if you present yourself as a student that is studious, that is serious, that really understands what you want to do. And you identify one or two of them in your department that are committed to study. No matter how bad your department is, there will still be one or two lecturers that will be committed to student success. So you can talk to these people that, okay, you want to know how to do research, you want to learn how to build your research skills, that what can they do to help you? Now, the basic thing, how you start is by assisting these people. So you can start by assisting them and don't ask for money. I think there is just one of these things that is destroying us in Nigeria. We are always looking for money, for momentary gain. There's this saying that you stoop to conquer. Okay, so there are times where you have to serve. So these people that you have identified and you know that, okay, they are committed to student success, talk to them, assist them. Is there any work that they want to do? Is there any publication that they are working on? You can start with helping them to edit. They can start guiding you. Obviously, they won't pay you, but you know what you want to get from it. That is how you start. And from there, they can begin, if you do whatever you are doing very well, they can begin to recommend you to other people that would give you more research work. The way it happened for me was that I started working as a research assistant to somebody, to a faculty, and it was this person that trained me. Even though I didn't start like collecting money or something, you do so much work for free, but you know what you are getting. You know what you want. You know the value of what you want. It was this person that became my academic mentor. Everything I know about research today, it was this person that trained me. Okay, do this, okay, do that. It would be very inconveniencing because you have to still do your work and you are doing their work also. At some point, it might be like, these people are using me, but it's kind of training. So get in touch with people that can train you, then serve, do whatever they ask you to do, develop yourself personally too. You can go on YouTube, you can learn how to publish, how to write, improving your writing skills, improving your research skills, all these things. So the responsibility is mostly on you to figure out how to get in touch with people that can help you. So, and also we talked about volunteering, doing internship. There are things that you learn while you are volunteering, while you're doing internship. And like I said, these things, you're not going to get paid for it initially, but it's the skills that you want to get that you look for. So I think that's how to get research experience. There's no other way. You just have to get trained by somebody that has been doing research. That's just how it is. And you might not be incentivized or something. So I don't know if I've answered like the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Demi. I also want to add that one of the ways to get publication in like as someone who is starting is your undergraduate thesis. That's a very important start. For me, my first publication was what I did in my undergraduates. A lecturer just said, "Oh, Ebube, there's this conference that's happening in the state where I was serving." He said, "Oh, there's a conference happening in that state, and I think you can submit that to your work." So what we did was we reduced it to, I think, 10 to 15 pages, and I presented it. That was my first conference. That was my first presentation. That was my first publication. Do you get? So these are some of the things that you can do to help yourself start. Yes, John.
Just a few seconds. I just wish everybody would take note of all that Damilola just said. The leverage I have ahead of all my colleagues is what she just highlighted. Many people wondered how I enjoyed such a ride by the grace of God. But I tell you, that grace does not work alone. It works with something. And that's why it says, the work of your hands, he will bless. Please. And especially for people that are coming to the United States, there are many opportunities that you can ever imagine. Your CV will make you different from other things. And this is why I'm bringing this up. By the grace of God, next fall, I will not be doing any TA job. Because of the fellowship I got here, the value of the fellowship is even more than my stipend as a TA. And it's a university-wide fellowship. When my advisor was talking to me, I said, say, I saw this thing, I want to apply for it. He said, okay, send your CV, let me see. He went through it, he said, John, go ahead. I did not know what he was pushing me to. So later, when I had put in my application, he now told me the processes I will have to follow from my department to the college, and from the college to the university. So at each stage, my application will have to compete with other people. Then I said, what is it all about it? Then he said, your publication will make you to stand out. My first publication was in 2013, when I barely finished first degree at distance learning. I was a distance learning student. If anybody's from UI now, we know we were usually discriminated against. Yeah, because we're like second class UI students, you know. So I had my first degree from Distance Learning Center, University of Ibadan. But today we thank God. Let those people use you now. You acquire the knowledge and it will reside with you. And in doing so, you are building your CV, and what that will work, what the advantage it will bring to you will be very, very far more than the painful experiences, if it is in the first place that you went through. So please, the webinar has taken another dimension, but that was a very good point that Damilola shared. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. So we're just going to go straight to the next speaker because of time, and so that we are able to meet up with time. So our next speaker is Joanna. Joanna is a PhD student in the School of Information Science at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. She got her bachelor's degree in Library, Archival, and Information Studies, a master's degree in Data and Information Science from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Her current research is on the information, behavior, and participation of women in STEM, with a focus on women in technology in Africa and America. So let's give a round of applause to Joanna as she takes the stage. You're welcome, Joanna.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me? Okay.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
hear you.
yeah.
Okay, so thanks, Ebube, for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm grateful. And thanks for everyone who took out time to participate in the webinar. I've been given the responsibility to talk on navigating application and graduate school as a married person. So this is solely focused on the married people, but the single people out there also will definitely benefit. But I'm just talking from a married person's perspective. So what I'll be discussing first is navigating your application as a married person, all the processes involved, not basically all the processes involved, because this time will definitely not do justice to that. Just few things that you should take notes if you're a married person and you intend applying to a graduate school outside the country. And sorry, I won't be sharing my screen. I'll just be talking from my points here. So the first thing here is that you should be committed. As a married person, especially if you have kids, you are besotted with so many responsibilities, especially if you are a woman. And bear with me, I'm talking as a woman. You know, you have to cook, do domestic, basically do all house duties as a woman, care for your husband, care for your kids and all of that. And if you have a job, so help you God. And if you don't, that's another ball game entirely. You have to be committed, you have to be focused. Like you have to keep your eyes on the prize, basically. It's going to be stressful, really, especially if you have a job. It's going to be stressful. But if you are really committed, focused, and intentionality, don't let anything dissuade you. Don't be swayed by anything. And just like Ibube said the other time, start your application way before the deadline. As a married person, you might not be able to meet the priority deadline. You can meet it, but if you're not able to meet it, don't think like that's the end of your application or that you won't be considered. You can also meet the normal deadline and still be considered for full funding. But then you have to be committed, be focused, be intentional. Keep your eyes on the prize. And the prize is you getting admitted. The prize is you not just getting admitted, basically, getting funding. Then how do you do this? You block out some time. If you're working full-time or you're working part-time, you can take a leave from work. You can, once you know that, fine, applications open by August or some open by September and they close by so time, you can schedule your leave. If you're entitled to leave in your workplace, you can schedule your probably 7 days on leave or 14 days leave, schedule it to that application space time. And, that will really help you in focusing on your application. You can also schedule a time with no distractions to work on your application. If you are someone who can't multitask, if you are someone who you have to like really be focused on a single thing before you can do it well, then schedule a time with no distractions. And for me, what works for me, I do my work in the midnight. Then I didn't have a full-time job as at the time I did my application. I got a full-time job after I did my application. But at that time, I had just completed, I think, a contract job with an international organization. So I had time on my hand. I was volunteering for my church then. And then I remember I told our leader, I said, I'm going to stop. I was volunteering for outreach. And I told him that I'm going to stop volunteering, that I want to focus on my application. And he said, okay, fine, go ahead. And, I prepared myself, not just mentally, but I acted on it. I remember I didn't have a chair then. We had one chair then, but I think it got broken. I got the money then. I went to get a chair. I got a table just to give me that serious mindset. And if you're in Nigeria, the light situations, you can make that time you schedule, you can make it the time that there will be light. If there is no power supply during the day, and maybe you can't afford fuel because of the high price of diesel or of petrol, and there will always be light in the night, or you already know the schedule of the light issues. So you can just schedule that your time to when there's light so that you can work with no interference. Because for me, it aches me when I'm working and it takes light. And even then, I didn't have a good laptop. My laptop then the laptop was okay, but the laptop's battery, once there's no light, it's just like for 30 minutes or less, it's going to die. So I'll make sure that I work when there's light. And what my husband and I did then, we got a laptop power bank. So then, and that then was 2022. Yeah, as at then we got this laptop power bank, which I recommend for many people to get. We got it for I think 40K plus. Maybe it's going to be like 60K upward now, I don't know. So what we did then, when there's light, we charge the power bank, it's going to be full. So when they take light and my laptop goes down, I charge it. And the power bank can use like 3 to 4 hours. So that was what I did, and that was what really helped me. And when the power bank's battery goes off, then I just use that time to probably sleep or to do some house duties. And when they bring light again, I go back to my application. But I mostly did my application during the night, because then I had I think my kid was just a little bit over 1 year then. So, waking up in the night and all of that. So, and I know she was going to sleep mostly throughout the night. So I mostly did my applications in the night. And she wasn't even attending a daycare as at then. So you can imagine the stress of having a kid, trying to do your applications. And then I was doing my master's project. So for me, those are the basic things I was doing. I wasn't doing a full-time job at that time. So once you know your schedule, once you know your commitment, then you'll be able to schedule a time to work on your application. So I also said, remember to speak to a faculty member whose research interests you and align with yours. And John has mentioned this also, so I don't think I have to reiterate this, but it's always good to have such a person on your side. I remember I did the same thing. I wrote my current advisor. I emailed her. In fact, she was the only one I emailed. I emailed her. I told her everything about me. I told her my age. I told her I had I think it's just, if you know the best way you communicate with a person, then you should also communicate with the advisor that way. So I told her about myself, and then I told her about my research interest. And so much in the email I sent her, I basically didn't talk about my research interest until I had spoken about her research interest. So my point was, I love her research and to be something I would benefit from, something I would like to do that. And actually my research also aligns with her research interest, and I would love for us to work together. And fine, most of them would not reply, but few will reply you. And when this few reply, please seize the opportunity. I can remember she replied, maybe, I don't know the interval, but she eventually replied, and of course they can't say they're going to give you the admission because they are not the one giving admission. They might just be lucky enough to be in the admission committee and just to speak in favor of you. So she was like, it's only if she is part of this admission committee, and then she can speak for me. And then she gave me a meeting link. I think that meeting link is part of her email signature. So I checked it out and I scheduled a call with her. In fact, I didn't remember to schedule the call until I had submitted my application. So, but then in my application, of course, I mentioned her, and since she was someone I would love to work with. So please always speak to a faculty member. And I think everybody didn't speak to a faculty member and still she got it. So if you have strong application, if your department is not like really asking you to submit a faculty's name, then you don't have to, but you should. It's going to favor you if you do. I know some universities like Cornell, like Harvard, they would ask you if you had spoken with someone. So for this kind of schools, it's good you speak to someone. Then also, this is really important. I said, don't do your application on a hungry stomach. I remembered then I had saved some money to do my passport. And then I told my husband then that, oh, I'm using this money for my passport. My husband was like, we don't have food at home. No, we can't do application on an hungry stomach. I remember then. So don't do an application on an hungry stomach. I remember if I'm in Ibadan, I went to Bodija Market, I bought food to the house, and then we focused on application. The money for passports came later. So please don't starve yourself because you want to do application, because you won't think, well, your brain has to be fed, oxygen has to be running in you for you to have well-articulated mind, clear and focused mind to think and, to write your essays and articulate your points. Please don't do your application on a hungry stomach. And eat well, rest well, sleep well. This will definitely give you a focused mind. And so now I'll be talking on navigating the graduate school as a married person. So thankfully, we are advancing to the future. You've gotten the admission, you've gotten the funding, you are here in the graduate school. What is the experience like? For me, well, okay, before you start the graduate school, when you get funding, when you get admission and everything, and if you have kids, you have to plan in advance for childcare, because childcare is a lot here. Childcare is really a lot here. I remember when I came at first, and there was no place to put my kid, and I was going to have a class. There was a time I was almost in tears because there was no place to keep my kid. The the schools I had applied for her, there was one she got, which is a private daycare, but it's also more like a research institution. The daycare is owned, it's called a child laboratory. The daycare is owned by the school. It's for daycare and for preschoolers. And the money they were asking me to bring was over $8,000. And where would I see that? So, that day I was crying because when we came here, my husband was in Chicago. I was here in Urbana. I was literally crying. Like, where would I put this girl? In my mind, and I called because they have many childcare resources where I am. There's this crisis, emergency. So I tried calling them, but in my brain, it didn't make sense to put my kid in a crisis emergency center. So I had called before. They said I was going to do some paperwork. After I called again that morning, when we wanted to start doing the paperwork, I just said, you know what? Don't worry, I'll take her with me to school. And thankfully, I knew this professor. So I don't know if I told the professor beforehand, or I just went to her office. Okay, I think I emailed her beforehand, and I told her that I was going to leave my kid in her office and then go for my class. And I didn't know that she had gone ahead. See, come on. Shh. I didn't know that she had gone ahead to make inquiries if I could actually take my child to the classroom. So when I got to her place, she was like, oh, that she actually made inquiries, and she was told you could actually take your child to the classroom as long as the child would not disturb you. And I know my daughter, she is a very, very super active girl. There is no way she would not disturb me. So that was not an option for me. But thankfully, I was on my knees while crying. I prayed to God, and God literally supplied a sponsor for her who paid that expensive fees that I could not pay. And up to date, that person still pays her fees. Fine, there are government-owned daycares, there are government-owned kindergartens or preschools. But when your child is not yet five is the time, the age a child enters kindergarten. So when your child is not yet 5, it's really hard to get into those daycares because they have a long waiting list. So even if you've applied, like I applied way before, immediately we got our visa, I started applying. So I applied way before we came here and we were placed on the waiting list. When the waiting list were placed, when they eventually gave us that spot was, I think, maybe March or April this year, and I had applied since May last year. So these are the kind of things you might want to consider. But if your child is 5 already or upward, you will surely get into free government schools because most schools are free. You surely get into free schools. So childcare is something you should not joke about. You should not joke about. I did mention daycare, preschool tuition is not free. Some are free, some are not. And there are different childcare programs and resources available in different states and countries. You can, once you get your admission, you can email your graduate college or your department to link you up with all of these child resources that you can use. And once they do that, it's going to be okay. And if either one of you, either the wife or the husband, if one of them gets the admission, the other can decide to stay with the kid. Number one, to avoid expenses, and just before the either the man or the wife gets the admission or gets settled. So that's another option. You can decide to stay with your kid for a year. Then also, as a married person in graduate school, be focused. Don't get carried away with domestic duties. Like I have to tell myself continuously that I came to the United States for my studies. Of course, I'm not saying neglect your family. I'm not saying neglect your kids or anything, but keep your eyes on the goal. Don't get carried away. It's truly overwhelming. It's truly overwhelming, especially when you have a baby also. It's very overwhelming. Sometimes you will cry. Sometimes, like that time with my kid, I was like, God, will I have to go back to Nigeria? I was thinking different thoughts that with the school sent me back to Nigeria because I didn't know what to do, just because I had a child who was not in a daycare at that time. So please don't get carried away with domestic duties. Also, as a married graduate student, create time to read, create time to study, create time to write. It might not work when you have your kids around, when you have your husband around, but thankfully, there will be your office. As a graduate student, you might have a research space, you might have your office, you might have a reading room where you're staying, or you might just make a study room in your house. Or you might use the library. There is a public library, there's a university library. Just make out time to read and study so that your grade will not go down. Because once your grade goes down, then it can affect your visa status, and it can affect your funding, and you know what happens, deportation and all of that. Also, eat well, rest well, sleep well. I can't emphasize that enough, because the education system here could be crazier than Nigeria, because Nigeria is an old system on its own. And yeah, also it's also a different ball game. Although the Nigerian system has kind of really prepared us, it's like, what's new? What else can we see that we have not seen in Nigeria? Yeah, it's rigorous here. I would say more rigorous than Nigeria. Although fine, they are very flexible than Nigerian professors, but it's very rigorous. For a week's class, you can have up to 10 readings that you have to cover, and you have to like summarize or review. So it could really get overwhelming when you have husband and kids. So try to eat well, rest well, sleep well. Please give yourselves breaks as much as possible. Don't have a mental breakdown. I remember last semester, the first semester when I came here, there was a time in the middle of the semester, I had to subscribe to Netflix, because everything was like study, and it was something else. In the middle of the semester, I subscribed to Netflix. Like, I cannot come and die. That's if I knew it's like that, like the slogan there, I cannot go and come and die, that kind of thing. But of course, I gave myself sense. I do not just watch Netflix. I might watch Netflix just to give myself that break that I need, and then bounce back on my studies. So I'm going to another one. How many graduate skills can I apply to? Once you've identified skills related to your course, or once you've identified possible supervisors, you should technically start the application process. You can, I know some people will say, I will apply to 10 schools. It might be realistic for you, but really, is it worth it? 10 schools, and try to, it doesn't make sense to me, honestly. 10 schools. As a married person with other commitments that you have, I don't think it makes sense to apply to 10 schools. I think those 10 schools, your applications will be so strong. Instead of applying to 10 schools, I tell myself, why not like give my best to 1 or 2 schools? So if you've listed 10 schools that you plan to apply to, and this basically applies to everybody, not just a married person. So why not just prioritize which of these schools are the best, which one has a high acceptance rate? I would say for schools with acceptance rate as low as 2% or 4%, don't bother yourself. Don't bother wasting application fees that you don't even have. Don't bother wasting it, except you get an application fee waiver. Some schools, they will just give you love letter. That's like the slang when you don't get the admission, when they tell you, oh, sorry, your application was not considered, blah blah blah. Like schools like Cornell will tell you to apply. In fact, they'll give you application for waiver. After, they will dish out love letter to everybody and say you are not admitted. Schools like Cornell, like Harvard, they have 2%, 4% acceptance rate. So except your application is really, really strong, or you have someone willing to advise you, I would say apply to those schools. Or if you have an application fee waiver, definitely apply to those schools. Then, so ideally, I would say apply to just 3 to 5 schools. 3 schools, basically. 3 schools, basically. You can do maybe 3 schools for PhD, 2 schools for masters. You can do stuff like that. And as long as your research interest is the same thing, you will only have to tweak your statement of problem, your personal statements to each school's peculiarity. So that's the idea behind applying to 3 or 5 schools. Okay, also bear in mind that you have to pay application fees for all schools. Not all schools will give you application fee waivers. And you can be so lucky that these schools will give you application fee waivers, but not all schools will give you. So imagine you having to pay $90. Naira is, let's say, 1.5 now. 1.5 times 90 is how much? Almost 150K. for application fees. So imagine having to pay that kind of amount to 5 schools. So please, because of the whole exchange system, exchange rates and everything, streamline your school. If you get application fee waiver, it's fine. Apply to as many schools as possible. But if you know that you can only afford to apply to only one school, then please try as much as possible to apply to just that school. Try, like, give that school all it takes, because it is not just application fee you will pay. Once you get the admission, you're paying service. Service is like $350 or so. I can't remember. I think so. You pay service, you pay visa application fee, your flight ticket is there, your living expense for the first month here is there. So that is why it's not really sensible to waste money in application fees, except you get waivers. And most times on the website, they will not advertise that they have application fee waivers. Once you email your graduate school, email your departments, ask about waivers, then they will tell you how to get it. Please, let's not, emailing your school can never be overrated. Like, keep emailing. For me, for the most ridiculous things, I email. For the thing you think might be simple, and you know, Americans are very polite. They would not reject it. The worst they would do is, okay, maybe you're writing to a professor, they might not respond to you. But if you're writing to a body, maybe the graduate college, the departments, they would definitely respond to you. Even if you don't get a response, you can send a follow-up email that, please, I haven't gotten your response. Please email as much as possible to get an application fee waiver. Then, how many graduate programs can you apply to? For a year in UIUC, you can apply to as many as 5 graduate programs in the same school. It's possible. It's possible, but I think what is not possible is you can't apply for master's and PhD in the same, like now, I'm in information science. I can't apply for PhD at the same time apply for master's. No, it doesn't make sense. So it's either I apply for PhD, I don't know if you can apply for master's and PhD together, but you can apply to, I know someone here, she came in as an F2, her husband was the one with the admission, and she applied to 5 different programs on PhD level. Thankfully, she was able to get one, and she paid application fees for all of those programs. So if you think you love a school so much and you just want to like diversify the programs you're doing, if you're interested in, maybe you're interested in education, and you say, okay, fine, let me apply to education, let me apply to educational leadership, let me apply to educational psychology, you know, all these 3 are in the same field, so you can widen your horizon and apply. But bear in mind, for each applications, you are going to be paying an application fee. So you have to think wisely. Then also, I'm going to talk on standardized tests. Standardized tests like GRE, we have IELTS, we have TOEFL. So schools for PhD, not all schools require GRE. Masters basically don't require GRE. They won't ask you for GRE. But for some PhD programs, some departments will say GRE is optional. Some will say they have waived GRE, and some will tell you to write it. And fine, GRE might boost your application, especially if you have an I score. It might be something you would love to put in your statement of problem or your personal statement when you're writing that, oh, I have a GRE score of 300 and all. So it might just boost your credentials. Doesn't mean it's giving your application, making your application strong, anything like that. It's just boosting your own credentials, especially when they didn't tell you to, when they didn't say it is required. I did GRE, not because it was required for any of the schools I applied to, but I did it because, okay, I got a scholarship to another university. I got admission to Boston University, master's, and I didn't get funding. And there was this funding there was this Dean's funding I wanted to apply for. And I know, coming from with my background, my portfolio is 0 to none, 0 and none, same thing. It's like literally nothing. I have 0 portfolio. So I was thinking if I should write GRE, it might boost my chance of getting the scholarship. And what this GRE allows, I don't know if IELTS also does that. As you're writing the exam, as you finish, they will tell you to write 4 schools that you can that they will send your scores to. So as you are completing the exam, you are including the schools you want them to send your scores to. But if you don't include those schools at that time, if you want to include the letter, then you're going to pay an extra fee. At the time I wrote GRE was, I think, $205. I don't know if it is statutory free or if it has changed. I know IELTS TOEFL is like $90, $100 or so. So for Nigeria as a country, they've waived IELTS, they've waived TOEFL for us, for most schools in the US. But some department, I think it depends on the program you want to do. You want to do a program like international relations or something related to English speaking, they would ask you for a proof of proficiency in English. So it's either you get a letter from your school saying your institution was an English speaking language, or your English is your native language or a primary language, then they might waive it for you. But otherwise, they would tell you to write it. But basically, really, it has been scraped. It has been scraped. I remember then, after getting admission, because our funding comes in forms of teaching assistant, research assistant. So as a teaching assistant, they want to be sure that you know how to speak English because you're in America, and obviously Americans' language is English. So what they told us was that they were going to do this kind of interview for us just to test our English proficiency. But I think somehow for my department, it got waived for us, and we didn't do it again. So if you think doing it will boost your credentials, please do it if you have the money. But if you don't have the money to do it, then why not use the little money you have for your application fees and just focus on other things? Then also, I'm going to talk on funding. Some schools give automatic funding for PhD, for masters. I would say focus on those schools, the schools that give automatic funding. You don't even need to look for external fellowships or scholarships. You can look for them maybe later in your 4th year, in your 5th year. You can definitely look for them, or it could be an addendum to the school's funding. But prioritize schools that give full funding. When I mean automatic full fund, when I mean full funding, it comes automatically with you being given admission. Once you're given admission, you get the funding also. And some schools, they would say, fine, there's no automatic funding, but you can get funding in the school when you apply for assistantships. So when you apply for assistantships, either as a TA or a RA or a GA, graduate assistant, or a fellowship, these things might come with a tuition waiver, but it's good you clarify before accepting an admission offer that if I'm giving a teaching assistantship, or if I'm giving a research assistantship, will this come with tuition waiver, and will this come with a stipend? So these are things you need to set, you need to clarify. So other instances, you have to pay your tuition from the stipend they're giving you. And some will say they gave you $10,000 in funding, and your school fees for a semester might be $30,000 or $40,000. Please, and probably you get an assistantship giving you $2,500 per month. How are you going to cover 30,000 naira with just you earning $2,500 per month? So if a school is saying they're giving you $10,000 in funding, and they know you have $30,000 to pay, the admission is not worth it. It's not, except you get an external fellowship, and that is before you start the school. But if you say, don't worry, I'm in Nigeria, I'm an hustler, one way we go do and forget it, they will, is it that this, and the way they do it here, once you're not able to pay the tuition, they will put an hold on your account, and you won't be able to register for the next semester. And what they will tell you, they will either tell you to withdraw from the university or to get a loan. And getting a loan, you're putting yourself in debt that, and the way they will spice up the loan. They will tell you that you can pay this loan within 20 years. It's like a sort of bondage to me, and I would not advise anyone to do that. So please, full funding is the best. Now, even if you don't have automatic full funding, any assistantship you are lucky to get, clarify that it's going to give you tuition waiver, and you're going to get stipend. Because if you get any assistantship that is just for tuition waiver and doesn't give you stipend, how are you going to take care of yourself here in the US? Except to start doing all these minor jobs, which would definitely interfere with your studies. Then also, as a family, consider the cost of service. Like I said, service fee is $350. You pay it once you get an admission to the United States. Consider your application, your visa application fees. I don't know how much visa application fees, but I think last time it was maybe $190, or I can't remember how much visa application fees is now. Your flight ticket is like on the increase now. When I left with my family of 3, we spent over 4 million on flight ticket, 4 million naira on flight ticket. So now, if you're a family of 3, if you're a family of 4, and if your child is 2 years plus, your child will pay almost the same thing as you are paying. But if your child is less than 2 years, then your child of less than 2 years will pay just 10% of what you're paying. So all of these things are what you should put in mind. And if maybe the wife or the husband gets admission and you want to bring your family as dependents, even if you get automatic full funding, your school will ask you for a proof of funds to show that you can cater for your dependents. Of course, you don't have to like have this money in your bank account or anything, but you might just, get the accounts of someone who has the kind of money they're asking for. They might ask you for $12,000, they might ask you for $30,000. Get the account of such a person, and the school might give you a format in which the person will fill it, and then you have to write your relationship between that person. So that is only where your I-20 can be issued for you and your family. So I think this is the end of my talk. If you have any questions, you can type it out in the question and answer dialogue box. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I think this is very useful to people to understand that being married does not hinder you from pursuing what you want to pursue, because I've had people who chatted me up to say, I want to do this, but my husband, my kid. It's very possible that you apply and all of you leave Nigeria at the same time. You just need the right information, you need the right guidance to be able to do this. So to reiterate, be very intentional about your time. I know you are married, you have other, responsibilities, but be very particular about how you spend, what is taking your time, how are you spending your time. If you are more busy in the daytime, then maybe use your night time to do some of these things for yourself, and then consider the cost that is also the cost that comes with moving with your family as well. Then when it comes to cost, she talked about the fact that application fee is beginning to rise. So even when you shortlist 10 schools, like I tell the people in my accountability group, when you shortlist 10 schools, regardless of that 10 schools, have about 3 that is your top priority, so that those are the 3 that you are putting in your best application for. For me, I shortlisted about 10 schools. I ended up applying to 2 schools, and then I didn't even complete the second application, and it was just one eventually, and which was the one I got. So when you do that shortlisting, it just helps you to find out which school works well for you, and how to navigate around it. And then she talked about prioritizing schools that give automatic funding. This is very important, because when it comes to funding here, you don't want to start doing this whole hassle of you got admission, did not give you funding, you will not apply. It's just a lot. So when you are going for schools, find schools that would give you that funding as they're giving you the admission, which is actually what a lot of people go for, and that's actually the best. So thank you so much. Please, let's give Joanna a round of applause for her presentation. Thank you so much. Because of our time, we're going to take the questions towards the last session. So I'm going to invite Omoshalewa, I don't know if she's online, to unmute and speak.
All right. I'll say good evening from here. I know it's good morning from your own end. So I really want to the time and the wealth of knowledge from everyone, to Mr. Adebayo, to Joanna. It's quite insightful. I want to thank DCC for this opportunity. Ebube, thank you so much for the support. So my name is Grace, and Ebube did not introduce me. Okay. So I am You're muted. So, so my name is Grace.
So sorry, because of our time, I kind of forgot. I'm so sorry about that. So, okay, so Omoshalewa has over 6 years of experience in the nonprofit sector as a program manager and director, with a master's degree in public administration and multiple certification in child protection and USAID programs. She leads and supports initiatives and strategies for policy development and project execution in alignment with the United Nations SDGs and community needs. Currently, she functions in organizational management roles for Brilliance and Purposeful Foundation and Speak Up for Help Foundation. So she's currently a recruiting partner with Osiri University that is in the United States, and she'll be speaking to us in that capacity. So basically what Grace is going to be doing is she's going to be providing alternatives for people who feel like they need this international degree, but are unable to probably travel out of the country, maybe work, family, and stuff like that, but they still need something that will help them to have an advantage on a global scale. That's what she'll be talking to us about. So welcome, Grace. Let's give her a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ebube. It's nice being, it's a long awaited, will I say adventure? So, as she has rightly said, so let's dive in because there's really no much time. I believe that, so we all know what is at stake and the need, over time, there's an emergence of the need to scale up skills. And we are in a globalized world now where international exposure is what you can, it should not, you should consider very, very pertinent.
Hello, Grace, can you hear us?
And as a worker, a professional career, getting funding is a huge help. And so in the past 5 to 10 years, there has been a lot of changes in the, in the education sectors. A lot of online courses has been coming up to scale up that gap. Our university has been emerging because they understood this gap, that's a huge gap. And for that, a lot of things has changed over time in Nigeria. And so ours is not different. As she rightly said, so I'll be sharing with you what the advantage that we offer. And so who are we actually? We are Osiri University. It's an online tuition-free institution. It's authorized and recognized by Nebraska Commission for Postgraduate School and American College of the Mediterranean. So that simply is who we are. I know that you would have come across a lot of university in Oxford, Stanford, a lot. They are all emerging, and you know what it is, even though they are online universities, but the tuition fees aren't smiling, especially now that there's a lot of uncertainty and volatility in the environment and economic recession. The dollar rate has been a serious challenge to us, and even for people who are already in that system to even continue education. And so we offer certification, bachelor's degree, master's, and PhD programs. And then we have enrolled over 500 students in our program. This is just basically who we are. So why us? Why us? Why choose Osiri University? As I said, we all know that education has gone beyond 4 walls of the school. I've come to realize or understand that even there are some universities in the US and the UK that they still offer online courses. Somebody told me that he was in the US, his school was in the US, and he never went to school for once, except doing projects. All was online. So to tell you that education beyond bounds is giving a lot beyond the four corners of the education system. So our why us is because we offer a year master's degree program and a 3-year PhD disciplinary program. So, and as I said, it's a tuition fee, but we have a yearly payment of $250 USD. So it's is the amount that you pay. It's a one-time payment. After that, you are good to go. So it's actually called like the administration fee. So with that, when you've paid that amount, you are good to go throughout the whole year. And so that settles it. And if you look at these statistics, this amount that we offer in our school and other online university school, you know that this is like just like a peanut. I remember someone telling me that, I won't mention the school, that the popularity online university, and because of the increment in the dollar system, the person can't not even continue that online university because it's quite huge, and the difference in the dollar is really affecting. So our advantage is that we pay $250 USD, and which is like in Nigeria money, they make it a fixed money of 250,000 naira that you pay once and for all. So our enrollment is on rolling basis. So you are sure that anytime you apply, you will get admission. So our graduation in US, so you can decide to, after your program, if you want your graduation to be in the US, it's very possible. The school can facilitate your recommendation. They will not facilitate your visa, but recommendation such that it will be easier for you to, process your application fee. So 0 payment for certificates. You don't have to pay any money for certificates. They are free. Then office hour visit. There's one thing I like about the school, because actually I'm also running an MBA course, in sustainable business leadership, and it's been an exciting course. And, this office hour opportunity visit gives you a good interaction with your tutor. So your tutor tell you that, okay, you can, if you have any issue, my office hour is between so time, then, whatever it is that your concerns are. So it makes that relationship of like, am I in the wall of the school, or is this still an online, an online university? So it fosters a good relationship between the tutor and the students. So one of the things that stands out is the plus. And the P for the personal growth, L for learn at your pace, Ubuntu, and solving community problems. So personal growth is very key in Osiri University. They ensure that as much as you are a student, beyond what you do, beyond those, beyond schooling in Osiri, they foster personal growth. They encourage that, students personally advance themselves through a peer review. It's a big factor that we do. We do a lot of peer review, and sectioning into groups also help students to boost their personal growth, such that you have more interaction with your students and you can learn from people who are even more knowledgeable than you. So learning at your pace. Learning at your pace is a very good one, but much more than it is, as much as learning at your pace, Osiri University is quite a strict university that, as much as you are learning at your pace, they are able to monitor how you do, such that there are measures put in place to work within, the time bound. Then Ubuntu. Ubuntu is one of our strongest principle in Osiri, and it's founded. The school itself is under Ubuntu principle, and we all know the story of Ubuntu from the South African Desmond Tutu, how it talks about I am because you are. So our university, beyond education, is saying that how can I, live, how can I, much more than whatever it is that I'm learning, is that I'm learning this to become more better and make my environment better. I'm learning it because I know that I am not in isolation. I'm learning it because I have a bigger picture of service, and that brings us to solving community problem. So Osiri itself, part of what Osiri does is it has a foundation that's called Osiri Foundation. Tells you much more that beyond education. So we see learning as a way to impact your community. That's just it. Even whatever it is that you are doing is to impact your community. So they instill this Ubuntu in us that much more than all of these things that you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing that is not impacting your community, then, it does not speak well. So solving, community problems through Ubuntu principle as always been a very big factor, which I hardly see. I know that these are things a lot of university, but instilling it, such even in our curriculum, is in our curriculum. So there's no how over time that you yourself, you will become more aligned. And what it does for you as a person, as Damilola have said, is to affect your mindset. So knowing fully well that your learning is to affect your mindset on how to become more responsible about others, be selfless in whatever it is that you are doing, knowing that there's a greater cause for you to fulfill, and that knowing that you are not alone, that you need other people to survive. Nobody can live in an isolation, and that's the Ubuntu. All the fight of the Ubuntu is that I am because you am. In a group, for instance, if you're in a group and you have a group work, and it's a group work, only you cannot make it happen. And that's why there's share of responsibility, such that you have to lean on the rest, fostering that interconnection, good interrelationship, ability for you to understand people, ability for you to know, to know who they are, to understand people from their own perspective, still, all those things having a paradigm shift on our mindset. So that itself, when you're learning Osiri, makes you want to think beyond education. And that's the essence of life. All right. Thank you. I hope I didn't spend too much time.
No, you're good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Shalewa, Omo Shalewa. Please, let's
You can
give
call
a
me
round
Grace.
of Grace.
Grace
Thank
is
you.
better.
Thank you so much. I just want people to understand that, we have universities like Nexford coming up, and those, they give you like alternatives to study just in case you cannot study abroad and stuff like that. I just want you to understand that this is actually a very good opportunity, and the fact that it's actually affordable. So it's something that you can plan over time and save up for it, right? And then you pay that tuition fee. That's a once and for all thing. And you also have the opportunity to even graduate in university. So even though you do it online, following the timeline and everything of the university, you also have the opportunity to come to the United States to do your graduation. And I think that's actually a very good bonus for people like me. That's, so also I like the fact that it is very accessible. The fact that you can interact with the people, there's some online courses that you really don't have personal interactions with the tutors. So this one gives you that opportunity to have that interaction. So it's as good as you are also, taking classes with these people one-on-one. And I think that's very important. And then the community problem solving thing, where it helps you to think beyond education, which is everything we've been emphasizing. Your education should not just stop, because you want to study, you want to get a master's, you want to travel, you want to get a certificate, an international degree certificate. It should also be something that you're able to give back to your society. And that's alone makes your application, like if you're actually applying to want to travel out, that alone makes your application strong. And then imagine getting that in a university curriculum, you know, it's a good advantage for your CV as well as your professional pathway. So you can actually reach out to her on LinkedIn. Grace, you can drop your LinkedIn link for them on the chat so that they would reach out to you. So please, everyone that has spoken here, they are all on LinkedIn, including myself. You can actually subscribe. I shared some links earlier. You can subscribe to my YouTube page, the web, the newsletter, where you get this information ahead of time to help you prepare to do this application. So you can as well do all of them. We have one question in the chats. So I don't know if any of the speakers, Joanna, Dami, and John, can answer this. The question says, please, even though I am learning research work, I can't. Okay, let me just re-ask this question, but it's something like the person is doing a research in a field that is not really where they want to be or something like that. So it's asking if the publications that they write out of it can still, you know, be an advantage for them in graduate school. It says, for example, if you're applying to go for chemical engineering and you have a publication with someone from electrical engineering, can those publications also count when you are interested in chemical processes? So it's like you are doing something in the same broader engineering field, but maybe different departments. So can any publication from it count? So I don't know if anybody wants to answer. Yes, Zami, you can go ahead. You're muted.
Oh, I mean, somebody else should, you know, say something because I said something earlier.
Okay.
Well, for me, I don't think it matters. For me, publication is publication, as long as it is an academic publication. For me, when I applied, I didn't have any publication. So publication is an addendum. It's not the main thing. It's not the main thing that makes your application strong. So as long as you have an academic publication, why not?
Thank you. Mr. John, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, good point. I accept with the responses to the question. Maybe I should just chip this here. It might not really be the appropriate platform, but let me still just say it. The trend we saw for people that would resume in different universities for fall 2024 is showing that the dynamics of admission process is changing in the United States. What do not usually matter are now becoming leverages. They are now becoming factors that make some people to stand out.
Yeah.
As much as I will agree 100% that it does not really matter where they publish, because publication is publication. And what that one does is that at least it shows to you that you have a research experience. Like if anybody wants to, you know, bring you into their laboratory, they know you have something to offer, like they are not just starting from the scratch. As much as that matters, that it shows that you have skills in research methodology, I will also say that going forward, such individuals may start looking for people whose, how do I put it, whose works align with what they want to do. We all know they may have some things in common, but at some level, we know that there will be point of convergence between chemical engineering and electrical engineering. An electrical engineer may not necessarily mix chemicals. May not. I use the word may not. But meanwhile, for somebody who is a chemical engineer, I don't know much about chemical engineering. I only know about chemical people, chemistry, and all that. Because here, I found out that they do not joke with their research identity. You know, we're talking about For instance, in my school in Nigeria, even when they tell us that, say, you have to work in this area, you hardly see people, and that's the same for, especially those of us in social science, that are known for one thing or two, and that's what they spend the rest of their career doing. But here, for instance, my advisor is in information policy. There was a day I was asking him about knowledge management. He said, "Oh no, John, I don't know anything about knowledge management." I had a publication in knowledge management, and it was counted for me. In my department here, in my school here, we found that people that have, okay, for publication's sake now, in fact, it's now beginning to influence funding decision. There were people that were given outright funding when they met all the requirements. Some were put in wait lists. Some were told that they were given admission, but they can go and look for how they will fund their education, while some were rejected outrightly. So these are some of the feedbacks we are getting from the people at the boardroom. So it's a very good start, and the person is doing well. At least that engineering generally, you have something to, again, it now depends on how you tell your story of your publication, because we still live in a world of interdisciplinary collaboration. Now, what you have done in electrical engineering, for instance, how does that connect with what you want to do in chemical engineering? You see, your ability to, even if it is research methodology you learn there, is still something that you can, capitalize on and tell the story about, because there is no knowledge that is a waste. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to add that because I think it's very important that, we learn that there are some things you can pick out from, even though it's not in the same broader discipline, there are some of those things that you can apply. I remember when I was telling my own story, my statement of purpose, and I was trying to bring in a research story. One of the things I told was, how that I noticed that there was this problem, and that made me first of all do a preliminary study, and then I got interested in it, and I was like, okay, I want to use that as my final undergraduate thesis. So I told the story, like I started from my third year to figure out a problem, and eventually just felt like this is what I want to do. And I did that, that already tells them that you think critically like a researcher, you've been able to do some analysis, you've been able to do some things. So you can tell a story, like he said, for the methodology you use. Since it's engineering, there must be, some connections here and there. So you have to find out what's that connection. Is it the research methodology? Is it the procedure that you use, So the way you coin your story would also, because it's like you are the one marketing yourself, right? So you cannot leave them to think about you. You are the one to tell them what you want them to think about you. So, and doing that, your statement of purpose, your CV and everything helps you do it. But I think it's a good start that you at least have a publication. By the time I was doing I had about, I think 4 or 5 publications. Some were local journals, some were international journals, but it counted and it was still something, But when you come into graduate school, eventually you just have to, you upgrade yourself. So this start is very good. It's very foundational. So don't, overstress it, but it's also important that you know how you market yourself eventually. So thank you so much. I mean, we've overshot our time. I was hoping we'll stop at 11, but this is 11:35, and thank you to everybody who came in. I'm recently hearing that a lot of people were having network issues to join because we had a lot of people who registered. But hopefully I'll be able to get this recording out eventually and share it to probably the people who registered, for them to watch and replay. And then if you have any question, please, like I said earlier, every speaker here are on LinkedIn or have, some profiles. So you can actually reach out to me if you want to connect with any of them, and I can share their links or something like that to you so that it's easier for you to reach out to them. John, Dami, they are very good help and resources. Joanna, very good helps. Omoshalewa, same thing. Grace, she said I should call her Grace. So they're all good resources like that can help you, especially if you're trying to figure out your research interest, your research area, how to go about it, how to apply for fellowships and scholarships. Please reach out to them. The most important thing, like John said, is be open to correction, be open to someone teaching you. You know, some people reach out to you, but they don't want to hear. They just, I don't know, but it's very important that when you're reaching out, you are humble enough to learn, because you may not know everything as you think you know, and they would direct you in the right approach. I also want to thank the speakers, Dami, Joanna, and John. I mean, this is morning our time, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. for some people. So thank you so much for being here this time around, you know, juggling your personal activities as well as this webinar. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Grace, thank you so much for your time. I know you are comfortable where you are, but thank you for also being here, you know, to make it a huge success. I'm very grateful to everyone. Thank you for everybody that has attended, and I do hope to hear from you guys and also share your success stories with us. All right. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.